Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Mount Tammany Ridge channel. So you might notice that my surroundings are a little bit different today. So I'm actually down here in the wood yard, which is primarily behind the camera. You'll probably hear a lot of background noise. It's such a beautiful day here. We're supposed to hit somewhere around 70 degrees, and naturally everybody's out in the neighborhood kind of trying to get things done and wait for the next cold weather event to come through. Not sure how long that's going to last, but I think it's not going to get too cold here, probably in the mid to low 40s during the day for a few days, and hopefully on the rise after that. But so what's got me down here today is more beta testing. Okay, I actually brought you guys down with me yesterday evening and did some splitting here with pretty gnarly oak pieces. And unfortunately, I don't know if the file was corrupted or what, but anything worth putting in a video was basically not there. And if it was, it had no audio or whatever. So I changed the SD card and my GoPro to see if maybe that's the problem. So we got some pretty gnarly oak here, and I think the gnarliest, unfortunately, has been put through yesterday. And there was a couple pieces that I put through with the four-way in this position, initially. And I'll tell you what, it was a test. The machine did not want to push it through. It just didn't. But it did. Okay, I made it do it. I, put it through hell and back basically yesterday afternoon. And after going through a round or so of pretty nasty testing, I figured, well, to get I was thinking I was going to do the rest of it. I still got 3, 4, maybe 5 pieces to go through today, and you guys are going to be here for all those pieces. Hopefully the only thing that's going to end up in pieces today is going to be the wood, because we're going to put this thing through some more testing. We're going to start out with it in the four-way position, and then once I feel like it's too much for the machine and not worth putting it through that, then we'll probably drop it down to just a standard two-way split. We'll drop it all the way down, and we'll knock out the rest of it with that. But if it seems like it wants to just keep going with the four-way and everything's good, then we'll just continue doing it with that. So one other thing I wanted to show you guys real quick before we get started, a little bit of a repair / maintenance that I need to do to the cutting edge on this before we get started. All right, so you guys can see here, I've had this happen. It was like somewhere around here, I think, with the first gnarly set I put through probably about a week ago up by the garage. And I owe a lot of this to basically an error that I made. I really should not have sharpened this down to a razor's edge. Though I think it is helpful for the slicing effect when we go through this gnarly stuff. But without this being AR400, I think that this edge is more likely to succumb to, any maybe really crazy hard knots, or I don't know, buckshot, in a tree or a bolt or whatever. I don't know what it's hitting in that tree, but it is rolling this over pretty badly. Now, when you guys are in a situation like this, if you're using mild steel for your splitting wedge like I chose to, do not come under here with a file or a grinder with a flat disc or something. Don't remove that material. You will never get that back if you do that. Okay. Basically, it got rolled under, and the best way to bring it back and try to keep at least some of that material, you might lose a little bit of it, but it's to try to peen it back over from underneath with, say, like a you know, a ball peen hammer. You don't have to use the ball peen side. You can use the more flat side. I'm not going to have a whole lot of room, so I'm using this piece of 3/4 inch bar stock. Now I'm bringing it up under here. It may not be necessary, but I'm bringing it up under here like this, okay? And I'm gonna try to tap this back up. Maybe I can hit it on the side. I don't think so. It is coming up. Okay, so we're getting close. All right, still some more to go there. We're getting a lot of it back. There's a little bit here that's staying rolled over. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to save that or not. See if I can get this. Honestly, the best way to get that to come back, I think, any better. This side hasn't had it happen because I didn't go all the way down to a razor's edge. So probably should have taken it out and flipped it upside down, but unfortunately, a couple months ago, I had asked somebody whether it was necessary to go with AR 400 for the splitting wedge or not. And they had said for something that somebody's building by themselves at home, it's probably not necessary. However, in their defense, I don't think they realized I was going as far as I am. So, enough horsing around with that. Hopefully, it probably won't stay. It didn't come back like the other one did, but we'll see what happens. I didn't really intend for this to be a permanent wedge anyway, only because I kind of figured that was going to be a little bit mild, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mentioned to you guys a while back that I might actually grind this off to a face that might be about 1/8 of an inch thick, and then turn my welder down a little bit and just you know, do a bunch of spot welds on here and build up some, you know, hardened edge, you know, temper it a little bit, or not temper it, but harden it, you know, hard facing, I guess is what they call it in the construction industry when they're trying to make a bucket last longer. They just hard face it with a bunch of beads. So, but that might be what I do, you know. I only do it to the surfaces that seem to be getting overwhelmed. But let's get this thing fired up, and we'll see what happens. Now you guys might get a little bit of comedic relief here. These oak rounds are way too heavy to be putting on here without a log lift. So I'm going to be using the excavator to drop it into the splitting chamber. And it's going to be a little bit of a balancing act. I had to do it with one of the rounds yesterday, or actually 2 of the rounds. And took me a minute to get it to balance properly. So we might have a few of them drop. I might have to try again, but we will get it split. right, so I want to show you something before I continue splitting. Okay, in an earlier video I had talked about having a rubber mat on here. Okay, and I also had talked about why the idea of the rubber mat, and that at least the previous rubber mat was not really working out so hot. So I'm going to go over it again. Now this rubber mat, or a rubber mat on the push plate, the idea is if I can get this push plate to push this rubber mat about halfway into the cutting edge, okay, the hopes were that the wood was going to push beyond the edge, the cutting edge, and do a clean cut, right, all the way through, totally terminated all the way through. Now, I have found that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, what I have found a lot of times is the rubber mat will squish, okay, because the density in a rubber mat in this, in about a 2-inch area is far less than the density of a piece of wood in a 2-inch area. So this wood is being pushed into the rubber mat, and it's like it's evading being fully cut through, right? So I'm not 100% sold on the idea with a rubber mat. Now I got something else I'm thinking about, and I will be bringing that to you guys shortly. But as far as it working, it did work. In this instance, it actually did. I mean, there may be a little piece here. That was it. But for the most part, it sliced all the way through. Which, really, all that is, it just makes it easier to handle the pieces, right? In some cases, a really big piece having some strings attached is kind of convenient, because otherwise you're chasing 2 pieces at once, and you can kind of cut the strings when you're ready, and retreat if you need to get away from the piece. But in a lot of cases, you're struggling. You just want to push that one over, roll it over, and you want to get this one off, set aside, whatever it is. Okay, it's nice to be able to just have them already cut. Now, obviously, anything in a diameter bigger than the height of this, if you have a log like this one that was taller than the actual wedge, there's more of a chance that you're going to have strings attached up above the wedge. But I mean, you got to figure, I think this is the height of that wedge fully bottomed out is probably 12 inches, give or take. So it's a 12-inch tall wedge. A lot of the wood that somebody might be splitting with a box store style splitter or homeowner splitter, non-commercial, that's really about where they are, between 12 and 16 inches maybe. Any bigger than that, most homeowners really don't care to mess with it, understandably. Ask me how I know. So yeah, so at this point it's working. The other downside to the rubber mat, okay, is the fact that when you're using the 4-way or even just a 2-way split, okay, when your log, okay, is trying to change direction, okay, whether it's to the right or left or up and down, when the log's going up on a plane, up over the horizontal splitting wedge, it's trying to take off like a rocket ship, right? Well, when you have traction, okay, on the side of the log that's getting pushed by the pusher plate, whether you have an abrasive face on the plate, or you have a rubber mat, this rubber mat has a tremendous amount of traction and a large area on the back of that log. So when those edges and things like that are pushing into the rubber mat like making a dimple, okay, that's even more purchase on that. So when this log wants to go up on plane, it also wants to change its trajectory and level out. Usually they're trying to, doesn't mean they are, but physics is telling it, yes, evade the pressure. And the only way to do that is to go up and out, okay? Well, this rubber mat, with all that traction it's got, is preventing that from happening, okay? So ideally, if you want it to be able to evade that pressure, okay, and go the way it naturally wants to go, I have to have something here that's slippery. I don't know, like metal, or I'm going to use something a little bit different, and I'm going to bring that to you guys in a later video. But I have to get back to what I'm doing here, and the next video I post, I will be doing the same testing, maybe not with the same material as far as the wood that I'm splitting, but I'm going to be doing some testing with a different material on the push plate, and we're going to see what kind of difference that makes.
you ready?
All right, so far so good. The machine definitely likes it a lot more with just the two-way wedge, specifically with this stuff that's pretty knotty, which is, you know, kind of to be expected. So yeah, very, very happy with the results. This thing is definitely more productive than it was in its original form, for sure. I think the biggest thing for me is the level of comfort, right? So with having the H-beam up at 36-ish inches, and the tray, that's a tremendous difference in how my back feels, you know, handling the pieces. You know, like there's some fine tuning I got to do, like the back side of the wedge, the vertical wedge. I have to smooth off the corners and kind of round it a little bit so that, you know, when I'm reaching over, I don't feel like I'm going to slice myself open. You know, all these things are, you know, to be done further into this build. But yeah, so far I'm really happy with the results. The pusher plate pad, the rubber, as I expected, was going to deteriorate throughout splitting, you know, almost a face cord. I kind of ran out of oak here, but I figured by the time I got done with these oak rounds, it was pretty much going to be shot, and it pretty much is. The one thing I will say about this particular rubber is it expands and contracts more cycles, right? So it put up with far more abuse than the horse stall mat that I tried using. Now, again, that horse stall mat that I was using was basically petrified. That's a very old one. Hence why I used it, because I didn't want to go cut up one of our new ones, and I wasn't about to go spend, you know, $50 for a whole stall mat to use a 10-inch square at the corner, just for a test, you know. And also, you know, the whole time thinking in the back of my head that there's a high likelihood that it's not going to be a good solution for what I'm trying to do, only because it was going to wear out so quick. So, like I said earlier, I have plans to use different materials on the face of this pusher plate, and we're going to see how that all goes. All of them are going to be mounted the same, you know, with some carriage bolts. I think next time I'm definitely going to use grade 8, and I'm going to use hex head bolts. The hex head bolts here that I used on the bottom, they lasted way longer than the carriage bolts did. However, they are still pretty soft metal. So I'm going to try to use grade 8. I know that they're not really designed for the type of, I think they're more designed for shearing forces, not really compression and tension. But I still think it's going to make a better bolt for the application. So yeah, so that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me abuse this piece of equipment. Again, I showed you the 4-way. You know, hopefully you guys got a pretty good idea of well, if anything, the strength of my welds. At least I'm getting decent enough welds to hold it together. So yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying it. This part is fun to me, not only because I do enjoy splitting wood and stacking, believe it or not. Building the splitters is a lot more fun. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, so I hope you guys stick around with me through this process on this whole MTR project, and I hope you continue to enjoy the content that I put out on this subject matter. I also did want to mention, before I close out this video, just last night I took the time, a good friend of mine that I work with, he's more social media, techie, you know, a little bit more up to speed. He's a bit younger than me yet, so naturally he's going to know more automatically. So anyway, off that rant, he had mentioned to me that I should probably start making playlists, you know, breaking down all of my videos and making playlists for specific, you know, subject matter. So I did do that last night. I think I've got one for this project, the MTR project. I got one for the brute force stuff when I did the long-term review on that. I have one for the Champion Splitter pre-MTR project, and there was an the fence post hammer, the Agritech 680. I also have a separate playlist for that. So if you guys are interested in those subject matters, feel free to go on the page and just click on whichever one of those, and it'll run in sequential order by date, and it will run through those videos back to back. So if you feel like binge watching on a rainy day, that'd be great. So yep, that's going to be it though. Thank you for hanging out here with me in the Mount Tammany Ridge channel in the wood yard, and I'll catch you guys on the next video, and we'll try to make it a good one.